One of the major reasons why we have seen such a high number of claims and fouls seems to be coming out of the first corner massacre in the Hungarian Grand Prix. It seems like the top drivers going out took a great toll on the manner in which the case proceeded thereon. The damages that were taken over by the teams were very harmful, and they had to be dealt with in a very short period of time. On the other hand, there were some other battles going on in the field already, as the Aston Martin looked back into the disqualification faced by Vettel in the last race. Let us have a closer look into this case and find out what could follow in the further races. Welcome back to another video on this channel. Today, we will be looking into some of the major updates that have been taking place as a repercussion of the massacre that took place in the first lap of the Hungarian Grand Prix. The crash that started off with Bottas locking up on the wet surface, hitting the back of Norris, led to a crash of a huge number of vehicles, and the race took a major turn of events. On the other hand, Lewis Hamilton continued his streak and stayed on the pole position, unaffected by anything going on behind him. We have a lot to cover, so make sure you stay back till the end of this video to make the most out of everything present today. Drop us a like and also subscribe to this channel for more content. We would love to hear what you feel about these events, so make sure you let us know in the comment section below. Without holding you up any further, let us get onto the track. With Bottas locking up right after the start at the Hungarian Grand Prix, indirectly taking out multiple vehicles from the race or damaging a few of them, there was huge chaos created for a long time. While we were all busy trying to figure out what went wrong with Bottas, there was another major incident that took place that many may not have noticed. Sebastian Vettel finished second and, therefore, got on the podium, which then raised multiple questions about the flow of events throughout the race. Vettel was disqualified after the race as the fuel sample that was required could not be extracted from the car. As a consequence, Aston Martin went on to make an appeal to this decision, and the events that follow will decide a lot on the podium positions for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Aston Martin firmly believes that there was enough fuel in Vettel's car. Even though Vettel was disqualified through the decision made by the stewards on account of a fuel mismatch and a lack of the traces that will be required to test certain parameters, it was soon contended by the Aston Martin that there was enough fuel in Vettel's car and the decision, therefore, must be reconsidered. This appeal was then confined by Aston Martin's spokesperson. The reason that the spokesperson gave was that there are reasons to believe that the car had more than a liter of fuel in the car after the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix. This was the reason they decided to reserve their right to appeal to the decision made by them. Even though there were speculations that this appeal will be rejected, given that Vettel was disqualified straight away by the stewards, we are still to learn what may come out of the decision. They contended that the feed pump stopped working, as a result of which the car had to be turned off. There were 1.44 liters of fuel remaining in the tank, and therefore a disqualification at this stage must not be upheld. They even have made a plan to prove that they had the specified amount of fuel in the car to make sure that they don't miss out on the podium. The fact that they have all the records of the fuel being put in and the fuel meter recording all of the fuel that is being consumed, it can easily be proved that they still have 1.44 liters of fuel remaining in the car without any form of trouble. This seemed to be a relaxed approach, which further stated the confidence they have in the system being implemented by them. They are certain that Vettel's car was filled with just the right amount of fuel in it, and it still had enough to make sure that all the necessary tests were completed in the best possible manner. The fact that they have been disqualified was very disappointing and unexpected, as they had been following all guidelines to the best of how they have been framed. After the massacre at the first corner, a huge number of fans were disappointed to see their favorite drivers out of the race in the very first lap at the very first corner. The penalty that was imposed on Bottas for the incident that took place was lenient. There are high chances that if the same had happened in the dry conditions, the penalty would have been much worse. Now, the ultimate place to gain all that those who lost in the Hungarian Grand Prix is through the Belgium Grand Prix. This will help them regroup and get their feet on the ground to find out a way that could help them make the most out of all the decisions that are being taken on the track. With the last race turning into an absolute drama with a lot of twists and turns throughout the race, it looks like the drivers have had to go through a lot in recent days. The mistakes that were created by various drivers on the track gave many others an idea of the kind of race that it could be in the laps that were lying ahead of them. While there were a lot of differences in opinions, there were also a huge number of people who thought otherwise when it came to the decisions made by the stewards from time to time. Fernando, for example, was accused of not giving enough space. However, this was not the case as the opposition sought to be enough for Lewis to make a move. However, while all of this came into the light, one of the major questions that came out to light that will hold a high value was whether the disqualification of Vettel was the right thing to do, and will he be back to the position that he gained through the Hungarian Grand Prix. Now, this being the case, let us look into the possibilities of whether Sebastian Vettel will be able to help Aston Martin reach the World Championship spot through this push in points and confidence. Despite the fact that he is one of the best drivers in the world, things have been a bit hard for him in the past races that he has been a part of. On the other hand, Aston Martin, with its history of having had a failed attempt into the sport, makes things even more challenging to see if they will reach the top positions in the present World Championship. While this was the case, through the experience that Sebastian Vettel has, there are high chances that we might be able to see this experience coming into play and therefore helping the team reach closer to the spot they have been desiring. Vettel has been one of the most successful drivers in the history of Formula One. Furthermore, he has also been able to dominate the sport through his unique way of handling speed. This being the case, the fact that he could get onto the podium is certainly not a new event, and therefore must be cheered. There are high chances that the allegations that have been put on the Aston Martin driver may also be out of a mistake. Based on the words by the spokesperson, the team seems to be confident of the fact that they had over 1 liter of fuel remaining in Vettel's car, and therefore it is not possible that the stewards could not acquire the said samples from the car. While this happened, it is also important to keep in mind one other comment made by the team where they accepted. They did have a technical snag which could have been the reason for the stewards not being able to gather enough evidence of the fuel to conduct the required samples in the manner in which they have been looking forward to doing. Combining all the events that have taken place, there are high chances that we might see Vettel out of the hook, and therefore able to regain his position back at the Hungarian Grand Prix. If this happens, this season will certainly turn very interesting, as we will then have another top contender enter the fight to become the champion of this year. The lack of adherence to the procedure may be one of the reasons for the disqualification. However, how far will it be viable to hold up this non-adherence to the extent that it costs the podium position for a driver is what needs to be taken into consideration. The petition through the right to appeal seems to be holding good in this case. However, the ultimate decision may rest with the stewards. Make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to this channel to make the most out of this video. Also, let us know in the comments below what you feel may be the verdict that the FIA comes out with. Stay tuned on this channel as we would love to keep you updated about your favorite drivers in the Formula One world.